Hello there, Peter from Universal Dork back again with another episode of Trapped on VHS, and today I'm going to talk about Hellgate from 1989, a completely and utterly boneheaded horror movie, which I like to refer to as, in this case, HORSHACK horror. So now, why the hell would I call Hellgate from 1989 HORSHACK horror? Well, simple answer to that question, because it stars, front and center, none other than Arnold Horshak from Welcome Back, Kotter in a starring, sexy, and sultry role. So when I say Horshak, who I really mean is Ron Palillo, who is the actor that portrays Horshak. But just because I enjoy the character of Horshak so much, and that's mainly what I know him for, I'm just going to continue to call him Horshak throughout the rest of this video. Because first of all, when Horshak appeared on screen, I'm not going to lie, I initially thought he was Balky from Perfect Strangers, and then it quickly registered in my head once I got a closer look at him that it was actually Arnold Horshak, which is even better. So if you're like me and have been sort of longing to see Horshak finally get his sexy comeuppance, then this one will definitely be up your alley. So yes, indeed, Ron Palillo, aka Horshak, is given quite a risque, racy, romantic sequence in this film. He is sitting on his girlfriend's back, completely naked, both of them are. He's all oiled up, you can see his rear end perfectly. He's getting ready to give her a sexy massage, and at one point, Horshak goes downstairs and really pleases his woman. Whoever was casting this film likely had an obsession with Horshak, because he is really given his chance to shine as a sexy leading man in this film, and it's quite perplexing. Now, the cover of this movie boasts, I'll just read it. From the special effects masters behind Hellraiser and Hellbound comes terror taken one step further. So, if you're a fan like I am of Hellraiser 1 and 2, then you are definitely going to be expecting some wild and freaky shit in this one, especially Hellraiser 2, which sort of pushed the envelope even further than the first movie. But you're going to be pretty disappointed if you're expecting fucking Pinhead-style, otherworldly effects going on that are comparative, because here we've got special effects that look like they were pulled from a 1980s Halloween kids costume shop. You remember those little kits that you could do like burns on your face and scars? Well, it looks like someone bought a bunch of those and brought them on set. But then I did a little more of a deep dive into this guy, William A. Levy, which it says on the back it's directed by Hellraiser special effects wizard, this guy. I could not really find his name attached to the Hellraiser movies, because those films have fucking amazing special effects going on. This one, not so much. That's not to say that there's not a lot of fun special effects trying to be pulled off here. We've got in one scene a goldfish that transforms into a giant mutant fish, busts open his little aquarium, and spurting and spitting slime all over the place. Kind of a puppet, this sort of puppet-style goldfish with slime all over it. Then that thing transforms into a sea turtle. This puppet sea turtle bites this woman's father in the face, and then he grows like this cybernetic metal thing on the side of his face that makes no sense at all. This happens because he's shot with a powerful crystal that a drunk guy finds in a cave. It does have sort of a nightmare, like dream style thing. Really, the plot makes zero sense. It sort of reminds me of something that could exist in the Phantasm universe, only written by someone who's consumed a case of beer in about a half hour. Imagine you did drink a case of beer and maybe smoked, a few joints, went to bed and had a really fucking idiotic nightmare. That would be Hellgate, and you'd wake up from it like, Jesus Christ, what the hell was I thinking? So that's this sort of numbnut style storytelling you're getting here. And of course, knowing that Horshak is in the film, this does pretty much have numbnuts everywhere, around every corner. Even the zombies in this movie are numbnuts. So that's something I appreciated about it as well. The movie starts off pretty strong with a group of characters that are in a cabin in the woods.
I just don't understand the point of coming up to a lonely mountain cabin if you can't sit around the fire and tell scary ghost stories.
And they've all gotten together and they're telling this ghost story about this strange town called Hellgate that exists up the road a little bit further. So this movie apparently was filmed in South Africa, so it's got a South African cast. They're all sort of trying to act, like they're your average Americans, and they pretty much fail miserably at that. But they're talking about this weird town, Hellgate, where there's the Hellgate hitchhiker that appears, and it's a sexy woman who tries to seduce HORSHACK.
Hey, baby, how about a ride?
HORSHACK is literally like a mega stud in this one, and that's one of the things that I appreciated about this too.
I wanted him. I really wanted him.
He goes into a diner, and there's a really cute waitress at the diner who's this like super cool 80s style total babe. She's totally trying to pick up HORSHACK.
You want it hot and black?
HORSHACK drives his car further because he's supposed to meet these numbnuts that are in this cabin that's out in the woods. He's supposed to meet them, but his whole trip gets sort of sidelined because he meets this beautiful, ghostly woman who's this hitchhiker that was brought back to life. Her dad is the one that shot the goldfish and turned it into a giant mutant.
You live here? Along with Herman Munster?
The plot here definitely leaves something to be desired because there are characters that are introduced that never appear again. There's a couple cops that seem like maybe they're going to come back into the fold. They never show up again. There's sort of this beefcake guy who was one of the tormentors of the woman who's come back from the dead. He's in the film, much older, and we periodically see him preparing with knives. He's cutting watermelons and sharpening bladed weapons. And it looks like he's going to become a major player in the film. Spoiler, he shows up in the very end and he's obliterated in about 2 seconds. Very strange, some of the decisions that were made here. Not really sure why certain things happen. That's why I say it's sort of got a little bit of a Phantasm vibe as to where everything feels a bit dreamy and off, but not executed anywhere near the levels of any of the Phantasm movies. Now, originally I thought that this was the only horror film that actually featured HORSHACK in a role. Now, this is probably the only one where he's in a leading role, but come to find out, completely slipped my mind and went over my head that he is also stars in Friday the 13th Part 6, which now I've got to rewatch. It's been quite a while, so I'm excited to see him pop up in there. He was also in a pretty wild and crazy film called Surf 2 that I saw. I think it was Vinegar Syndrome released that on Blu-ray a few years ago, and that movie's pretty bonkers and just a really wild and unpredictable comedy that I highly recommend. He was also apparently in a movie that's now on my radar this year for Christmas that I definitely want to cover here called Trees to Root of All Evil. It's a Christmas themed horror movie, much like the movie Treevenge, that features Arnold Horshak again. Comes into the sequel for the first movie, Trees, which I've never seen. But this apparently is a 2004 Christmas movie with killer Christmas trees. So I'm super excited to check that out this year for Christmas. He also apparently starred in the Pound Puppies movie. So I know there's probably a lot of fans of that one out here that are listening to this. And he was also with Lorenzo Lamas in Snake Eater 1 and 2. I'm hoping that he's either Lamas's buddy, like it's a buddy cop comedy with him and HORSHACK. That would be great. Or I'm hoping that maybe HORSHACK appears in that movie as the main villain, or in one of those, or both of them as the big bad guy. I highly doubt it, though. So the director of this movie I found sort of interesting, being that this sort of like false representation of his FX wizardry on the Hellraiser films. But most interesting, I just wanted to mention this really strange film of his. It's called Monaco Forever from 1984, and it looks like it's around 30 minutes long, and it features Jean-Claude Van Damme and Michelle Bauer and a bunch of other people whose names I didn't recognize. So I had no idea that this thing even existed, so I'm very curious to see what the hell that is all about. I don't know if it features Van Damme in like some sort of crazy action role, or maybe he's having some sort of romance with Michelle Bauer. Maybe we'll get to see Jean-Claude Van Damme's oily rear end. I think we've seen that in several films already, just like HORSHACK's in Hellgate. But I'm very curious. Anyone else out there seen Monaco Forever? Let me know. This one, I sort of thought at the end, I was like, oh God, You know, I presented this one. A friend of mine loaned this tape to me. It's good to watch stuff, too, at movie nights that no one has ever seen before and just take a total risk. Don't do too much research on the film. Throw it in and see what happens. The more I thought about it at night, falling asleep and thinking about Horshak's oily rear end, the more I sort of realized that I actually really enjoyed Hellgate. And as far as bad movies go, I think that this, after really thinking about it, delivers the goods. And hey, maybe I just have some sort of strange fixation or some inner hidden crush on Arnold Horshak, but I was delighted to see him star in this movie. It was a familiar and welcome face from when I was a kid. Having him jumping in as the leading man in this film made it even more idiotically enjoyable. Now, I guess Hellgate is not necessarily, in reality, trapped on VHS, because it did receive a DVD release at one point where it was a double feature paired up with another sort of cult gem called The Pit. And it was also, in the UK, released on Blu-ray, given sort of the fancy treatment by Arrow Video. So I do recommend Hellgate. Check this one out if you're looking for something stupid, and I will see you next time.
Get off the car, you son of a bitch!